Following their search, Officer Horn headed back outside to speak with Ashley. She was visibly shaken up by the incident, but the detectives needed to know if Amy and Jimmy had a history of violent altercations.
Were your mom and dad fighting at all yesterday that you recall?
No, but everything was normal when I left.
When you left? Okay. Is there a history of the fighting or arguing or anything like that? Nothing ever? Okay.
The officer also asked about Amy's state of mind, but Ashley said that even though her mom was a deeply introverted person, she had always been emotionally stable. This interview wasn't as fruitful as the officers had hoped, but shortly after, they were approached by several of Amy's family members. They said that Jimmy waited 14 hours to tell them about the incident. As soon as they heard the news, they rushed over to the police department because they had an abundance of useful information for the police. The investigators learned that back in 1997, when Amy was just 13, she had a son named Caleb. Her parents looked after Caleb while she attended high school in Ocala, Florida. By the end of high school, she began dating Jimmy, who had no problem becoming a father figure to Caleb. When Amy was 19, they had Ashley, and from that point on, Amy stayed home to take care of the kids while Jimmy worked. However, according to Amy's family, this wasn't her choice. They believed that Jimmy was a controlling husband who didn't want Amy to become financially independent. He would monitor everything the family did, from their social media activity to what they were eating throughout the day. He would also discipline the kids if he believed they were misbehaving, frequently taking things too far. Whenever Amy stood up to Jimmy, her opinion didn't seem to matter. Whatever Jimmy wanted, Jimmy got. So when Caleb turned 17, he left to stay with his grandparents. Jimmy retaliated, telling Amy that she was no longer allowed to speak with her family, including Caleb. One of the last times Caleb saw her was at his high school graduation a year before the incident. But other than that, Amy had minimal involvement in Caleb's life. All of this evidence was extremely damning for Jimmy. It wouldn't be a surprise if an abusive and controlling husband tried to murder his wife. But if the police wanted to bulletproof their case against Jimmy, they needed to answer one big question. What was Jimmy's motive? Unfortunately, before the investigators could answer this question, they received tragic news. On September 17, 2018, after being unresponsive for 3 days, Amy was taken off of life support and pronounced dead. With a possible homicide now on their hands, the authorities pressed on with their investigation. They decided to look for answers in Amy's cell phone. In her text with Jimmy, his controlling behavior was on full display. He had somehow been tracking Amy's every move. He would frequently text Amy her exact location and ask her why she was there. Despite all of Jimmy's torment, Amy seemed completely fine in her other conversations. This evidence strengthened the case against Jimmy, but the